Whilst the size of your e-mountain bike is fixed, that does not mean to say you cannot adjust the fit of your bike considerably to give you a far more comfortable and efficient ride. Here's a quick guide then to get you sorted. What then do we mean when we talk about fit and sizing? Aren't they just the same thing? Well, no, they're not. However, there are some dimensions which actually stay constant from one size to another, from small up to say extra large, and those are such things as the chainstay, the bottom bracket, the seat tube angle and the head tube angle. However, there are some brands out there such as Norco who actually increase the chainstay in proportion to the front of the bike depending on the size of the bike. Now, most of the time, the only dimensions that change on your e-mountain bike from size to size, from say extra small to extra large, are things to do with the front triangle of the bike. Such things as the top tube, the seat tube length, the down tube, which is really important, and then such things as the standover height, which although that is actually measured differently from brand to brand, and finally the head tube length. Now we're going to talk about this down tube measurement a little bit later on, and that is from the middle of the bottom bracket up to the middle of the head tube. But there are actually very, very few brands that actually use that number when they put out the geometry of the bikes. Rather, they use a measurement called reach, and reach is from the center of the head tube in a horizontal line across to where it meets with a vertical line up from the bottom bracket. And the thing to remember about reach is it varies from size to size by about 25 millimeters. So say you'd get a size large, which is 470, and you get a size extra large, which is about 495. So that then is the size of your bike, and that is fixed. But think about all those things that are outside that area, outside that front triangle, and how they affect how you control your bike. And this is something called fit. And what I'm talking about here is such things as your saddle, how the saddle moves forwards and backwards in the rail. I'm talking about the spacers underneath your stem length, your stem height, because some stems have got a rise built into them. And then of course, your handlebar, you're talking the bar width and the bar height. All these factors affect the fit of your bike and how your bike handles, and of course, your balance points. So as I mentioned earlier, the difference in sizing within one brand generally is about 25 millimeters in the reach measurement, and that's a really good indicator of sizing. For example, you could have, say, a 450 millimeter reach in a medium and a 475 millimeter reach in a large. So, for example, can you imagine the difference you can make by going from a 35 millimeter stem up to an 85 millimeter stem? That's almost 2 sizes difference. So to illustrate that, here is a 60 millimeter stem, and here is actually a 120 millimeter stem. So you're almost talking 3 frame sizes difference there. And so you can see how fit can actually considerably affect the ride of your e-bike. When we're talking about fit, we need to think about the reasons that we're going to change the fit in the first place. And I think 2 of the most important ones are comfort and also fatigue, especially on those longer rides. But remember, if you do change your fit, then it's going to affect the dynamic ride of your bike considerably. It's going to affect those balance points. So I wouldn't actually move too far from the standard components on your bike. And you know what? I think fit is really, really important on an e-mountain bike. After all, you're going to be doing a lot of climbing and a lot of descending. So the components you fit are really important. For example, a stem for descending should be around 35 to 50 millimeters to make sure you've got really stable steering on that mountain bike. However, you're going to be doing a lot of climbing too. So anything up to 60 millimeters to get that weight over the front tire. But you don't want to have too much weight over the front tire because that's going to affect how much grip is on that rear tire. So it's all tied into your seat position as well. So in general, fit is a really fine balancing act on your e-mountain bike. Right, my handlebar is now in the vertical position on the bike, and I'm going to get a measurement on this from the center of the handlebar down to the middle of the bottom bracket. And that is 38 inches or 960 millimeters. Right, I'm going to move the handlebar back, not too much, just tilt it so it's now just off vertical. I'm going to put that measurement on there again, and now we have got just a fraction over 37 inches or 940 millimeters. So just by turning my handlebars, I've changed the size and fit of my bike by 25 millimeters. That's almost one size compared to the reach measurement between, say, a medium and a large. So a huge difference. Now remember, this is one handlebar, and each handlebar have their own specific sweep and rise to them. So if you want to keep your handlebar, you change the cockpit of your bike by changing the stem. That's dead easy, and those measurements, you know, I don't need to go through that. So you can go from, say, a 60 millimeter stem down to a 35, and again, you've changed the fit of your bike by one size. Now I've simply swapped out the spacers underneath my stem and put them on the top of the stem. There's about a 20 millimeter difference now in the stem height. And believe it or not, but I've actually got a sweet spot in terms of handlebar height on my bikes, and it's been the same for over 10 years. And I can do this by measuring from the floor to the outside center of my handlebar, and it's generally about 42.5 inches. Now this is down to under 42, so I just know that the front end of my bike is going to be too low now. So yeah, for me, I found that sweet spot, and it's just about experimenting between your bar width, your stem length, and your position on the bike. Now, bar width is something people generally get carried away with. It's a bit of a fad, it's a bit of a fashion, but there's actually a practical element to getting the right size width handlebars. Now, my shoulders are reasonably wide. I ride about a 780 to 800 millimeter handlebar. However, World Cup racer Adam Brayton, he's 5'8", and he cuts his handlebars down to 750 millimeters because there's a good relationship between the width of your shoulders and the width of your handlebars. And again, it's something you really need to experiment with, because if you get a bike, say a size, or if I got a bike, say a size medium, and I put a wider handlebar on it, you would not believe how much that opens up the front end of the bike. It almost feels like you're riding a large or extra large bike. And the same goes for if you put a smaller handlebar on there. If you put a small handlebar on a size extra large bike, it actually make it feel like a size medium. Just try it out and you see for yourself. Now, seat position obviously has a massive impact too. Now, this ergon seat I have on my bike has about 70 to 80 millimeters adjustment. So that's about 3 size differences just on fit alone of those rails. But it is actually closely linked into the seat tube angle of your bike, the suspension tune of your bike, and also critically the chainstay length. Now, short chainstays are about 420 millimeters and long chainstays are about 480 millimeters. So if you've got a short chainstay bike, you might want to put the seat a little bit more further forwards to get the weight bias a little bit more forwards. However, if you've got a long chainstay bike, you can actually get away with having your seat that little bit further back, because there's already a good balance on the bike when you're climbing up those hills. Okay, quickly to summarize what the effect of your riding is going to have by changing the components of the fit on your e-mountain bike. First of all, the stem. So shorter stem is going to provide a more stable steering, whereas a longer stem is going to have a slightly twitchier steering on that bike. As I mentioned, when it comes to handlebar width, that is a personal thing, so you need to tune into that. When it comes to the position of your stem up or down with spacers either below or above it, that's going to affect how much weight is on your front wheel. For some people, they prefer to have the handlebar a little bit higher because that will give them more confidence, especially when diving into those big rock sections. And of course, the same applies to the seat as well. If you've got your seat rearwards, that's going to give more grip on the rear tyre. At the same time, it's going to make the front wheel go in the air a little bit, depending on the chainstay length. And if you've got the seat forwards, that's going to put more weight in the front and maybe reduce the weight on your rear tyre. It all depends on how you custom set up the fit of your e-mountain bike. So guys, let us know your comments on altering the fit of your e-mountain bike. Happy to answer any questions you've got. In the meantime, if you want to look at some more dynamic videos on how to climb with your seat up or seat down, check it out just down here. Don't forget you can subscribe to EMBN, and also don't forget to give us a thumbs up and like this video. Cheers!